Live to see it, friends, and welcome to The World Transformed. This program is your guide to an astounding future that lies ahead, one that will be here sooner than you think, and one that you have an important role to play in bringing about. At The World Transformed, we want to introduce you to what may be the greatest transformation of them all, the one that begins with considering and acting on the almost limitless possibilities that lie before us, and that ends somewhere beyond the reach of the human imagination. So, when does this amazing future begin? Well, today is the day. My name is Phil Bowermaster, and with me in the virtual studio is my co-blogger, co-futurist, and co-host, Stephen Gordon. Hello, Stephen.
Hey, Phil. How are you?
Well, I am super fantastic. How are you, my friend?
Man, I'm doing great. Now, we're going to predict, we're going to be talking about 2022. Yeah, I'm old enough to remember, Phil, when that was a long way off in the future, right? So,
boy, me too. Well, I grew up, I can remember the 60s, and back in those days, the future was the year 2000. Right?
That's right.
I mean, that was...
The 2001 Space Odyssey was, telling us that we would be going to Jupiter and Saturn, by this, long ago, so... well.
All during the 90s, Conan O'Brien had a bit called In the Year 2000, and then after that, he still did it. I don't know if he's still doing it. I think it would be hilarious if he was, but, as the guy, in the year 2000, right? Right.
I remember that.
Give these predictions for what would be happening in the year 2000. I think he should. But anyway, we're doing in the year 20. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Andy's disembodied head would be singing that, I remember.
That's right.
That's funny.
But we're going way out, 5 years from now, to the year 2022, and we want to thank IBM for giving us that time frame, because we are going to talk about some predictions that they've made. But we're going to add a couple of our own. That's a pretty good time frame for looking ahead. We often talk about what's going to happen in 10 years. With 5 years, there's room for some pretty substantial change to occur, and that's what IBM is suggesting in their predictions for what life will be like in 2022. And I'll tell you, this is a great story. Follow the link. Read this story. This is really interesting stuff because each one comes with a video that kind of outlines where IBM thinks each one of these changes is going. And these are not your typical things. These are it's kind of an eclectic list of predictions that IBM is making here, isn't it?
Yeah. Let me just give you, for example, the first one, and we'll go ahead and get into it, Phil. Thanks to our AI, our speech will be, and let me just stop right there. My brain's already thinking ahead. That'll be the way we access our computers, right? That's the way we will interact with our computers. No, IBM says something different here. Thanks to AI, our speech will be a window into our mental health.
Right.
In other words, the way we talk, there'll be algorithms that'll examine that and say, you know what, Bill, you might want to see some sort of professional because we think, you're losing it, man. Apparently that will be a thing in 5 years. That's pretty amazing to be able to.
I mean, on the one hand, it sounds a little scary, right? Because you can think of that whole idea being applied in a lot of ways. Phil,
right.
Your big brother thinks you're not talking like someone who's part of the program here. But
exactly.
but the good version of this is that your speech patterns, unbeknownst to yourself or to anyone around you, are revealing an early pattern that could be indicative of Parkinson's, for example.
Yeah.
That before other symptoms manifest, apparently this stuff could be detected in speech if you talk enough, and if you've got a patient enough machine learning program listening to everything you say. So, it's a very unexpected application of listening in on what we're saying, and a very unexpected application of deep learning, machine learning technology, and very cool for exactly that reason. Because you can only imagine that the sooner we catch something like that, the more effective the treatments will be, particularly if you think about the kinds of stuff we were talking about on Monday, with more preventative kinds of kinds of medical treatments becoming available anyway. That's pretty impressive, pretty amazing stuff. Let's look at the second one. Superhero vision will be possible with AI and powerful new devices. Well, you got me at superhero. Am I right?
Exactly. We're all about the superpowers. So tell me how this would work. I mean,
well as visible light, we're going to be able to see microwave, millimeter wave, and infrared images through devices small enough to fit in your pocket or clip onto your shades. So it says here, think the visual capabilities of something like an airport security scanner, but in a device the size of your phone, right? So my closest analogy to this is I remember in the comic books, in the ads, there used to be this thing for X-ray specs, right? And if you're young enough, you could actually believe, oh, I can buy these glasses and then I can see through walls, right? And I can see through girls' clothes and whatever inappropriate application a young kid might want to make of that kind of technology. Well, those didn't work. Obviously, they didn't really do anything. But this kind of moves you in that direction, right? I mean, this is the ability to tremendously enhance what the eye already can do, fit into a very small piece of technology. Again, either that you would, I don't think they're talking about actually implanting it directly into the eye, but it's probably more something that kind of like the device for it might be something like Google Glass, right, where you would have your current vision significantly augmented to include this other visual information.
Cool. Well,
and it tells you, that you might immediately know whether a food is safe to eat, for example, right? Because you're zooming in microscopically on the food and saying, "Oh, yuck, there's some bacteria in there that I'm not sure I want to eat." You might see another car ahead of you as you're driving much sooner than you would. Of course, your car is going to be self-driving in 5 years anyway, so that might not matter as much. But recognizing a friend in a crowd, for example. Just all the stuff basically Superman can do, right, with his vision.
Well, combine it with the first story. We can hear that our friend is crazy and see that he fed us bad food, right? So
there you go. It all adds up.
Yeah. So it's time to move away and get away from that friend. Anyway. Okay, the third one is microscopes will help us understand Earth's complexity in infinite detail. So this is basically telescopes from space pointing back at the Earth, right? And we will understand what's happening with traffic patterns and you name it, all kinds of things that you couple this ability to look at the planet with deep learning AI and data mining, right? And
well, and I should say it's not just telescopes from space, but what they're talking about is all the sensor data across the board from the Internet of Things. So it is this enhanced visual data from space, but it's also they talk about all the data
and everything else, right? I mean,
and everything you're getting from remote-controlled light bulbs and smart speakers and everything that people's toilets are telling them, right? All the stuff we've talked about in the past about the Internet of Things. All this data coming together, and kind of like we talked about on Monday, where when you look at a cell from 1,000 different angles, suddenly you find treatments for a bunch of ailments that you weren't even looking for. Apply that principle to society, right? Apply that principle to civilization as a whole. Suddenly you've got data across the board, and you're going to find trends. You're going to detect wars before they break out, right? You're going to detect potential diseases before they break out based on all the data that's coming in. I mean, the stuff that's hidden in that data and the ability to make the word means something different when AI scientists use it, but to make predictions from that data actually does turn into what we mean by the word predictions, because you really almost get this glimpse into the future because the data that's showing up in these very subtle ways tells you what's about to happen kind of on the macro level, and thus the name macroscope, right? You're kind of seeing the big picture of what's happening to humanity before humanity even realizes what's happening to it.
Well, it's and so, I guess the first two stories, could be, here's what's happening in my immediate vicinity, right?
Yep.
I can hear that the person next to me is crazy. I can see the problems with the environment around me. But with the macroscopes, I could see, and here's what's going on in my entire community, right?
Mm-hmm.
It kind of gives you a God's eye view on things, and that's awesome. That's awesome.
Exactly. In fact, if we can go out of order, number 5 just kind of gives one application of this. It kind of
okay. Let's go out of order.
Yeah. Smart sensors will detect environmental pollution faster than ever. This is the kind of this gives you the idea. So basically, if you're looking at data from all the different sensors, and think about it this way, it's kind of like just as your words are going to give hints about Parkinson's, data from other sensors, even that aren't necessarily looking for pollution, are going to show that pollution is occurring. One example of this, it says, is methane leaks. They're invisible to the naked eye, and they're probably the second largest contributor to global warming after carbon dioxide. Well, you put the sensors in place, and they might actually be looking for these leaks for commercial reasons. But if you have them there anyway, right, and they're collecting this data, then you're tracking pollution going into the environment that you weren't tracking before, and you'll find it that much faster, right? They talk here, the time frame becomes minutes rather than weeks.
You can get to the source and deal with that problem and end up with a cleaner environment quickly, right?
Yeah, and if you take that same principle and apply it back to the one we were just talking about, that's the idea, right? Is suddenly you're that much better at catching things. You're catching things before they've become overt, right? You're identifying trends happening throughout the world before the major symptoms occur. And it really is just kind of like the Parkinson's thing, right? You're not trembling yet. Nobody knows that there's anything wrong with you. But in your speech patterns, it's come up. Well, the same thing is happening here. You know what? There's an epidemic that's about to break out in this particular country, or they're about to have a shortage of food, or they're about to have, whatever it would be, too much of something in the air. Whatever the particular condition would be, forewarned is forearmed. And suddenly we become much better at a macro level of dealing with problems.
And of course, we think of things like having, relief organizations in countries and things like this. But this could be down to the neighborhood level. You could see that a particular neighborhood was going to have some issue, and the police could have resources in advance, knowing that they're going to have a policing issue in this particular neighborhood, maybe even down to the block level, right?
Right.
In advance of the problem, and that's amazing and awesome. Okay.
Yeah, and so, scary. I mean, the thing is, as with the first one, you can't help but have all kinds of Big Brother ideas in your mind.
Pre-crime, right? I mean, you're being prosecuted for pre-crime.
Yeah, and the fact that it comes from IBM doesn't necessarily help, right? The big monolithic, good old IBM, right? I mean, there was a time, going back to the 60s, when if anybody was going to predict a company that was going to be, in charge of your personal profile and kind of running the world, it would have been IBM. And here they are kind of making predictions along those lines. So it's kind of, for those who want to be paranoid about this stuff, okay, yeah, there's some potentially scary applications of these technologies as well. But we're talking just 5 years out. When you look at this one, the macroscopes and all the potential applications of that, we're talking about a real shift in how the world works. Yeah. And it's almost hard to get your head around it. It's like we need more examples like the pollution one. I think they kind of cheated by throwing that one in, because it seems to me that one is just kind of one good example of how macroscopes will work. But remember that word and remember this concept, folks, because we're going to be hearing a lot more about this. This is going to become a big part of how our world works. Macroscopes may end up being the more important term than Internet of Things, which I think so. On everybody's lips. Yeah. And quite frankly, this article is the first I've ever heard of the word macroscope, and so
that could be a big deal very quickly. Well,
I don't think it'll be the last, and I think the ethical use of macroscopes is going to be a big issue going forward. Whether that word ends up being the word that's used, I think you're right, Steve. We've been talking about the Internet of Things. The real issue is what's happening to all that data, right? Where's it going? And that's what they're getting.
How is it being used, and who is using it, and for what purpose? So, getting, number 4 coming after number 5 now on our list here, labs on a chip will revolutionize medicine. Well, we've kind of been talking about this one for a while, Phil, but IBM is now saying, hey, we're definitely, it's definitely going to happen and quickly within 5 years. The idea here, labs on a chip have been, said to, this is going to be the thing that helps the developing world, begin to have a medical care somewhat on par with the developed world, because you can get out in in remote places and do the same kind of lab work that you or I would have, out in the middle of nowhere, because it's basically happening on a medical tricorder, right?
Right.
One device that's able to do all these medical tests with maybe just a drop of blood, and do them simultaneously with a single lab on a chip. But I don't think this is just going to be something that benefits remote places in Africa or India or some places. This is going to be something that revolutionizes medicine for everybody. That lab on a chip might be in your smartphone in 5 years, or maybe in 10. It may take a little longer to get in your smartphone, but eventually you're going to have that, and that doctor on board will order tests every now and then to make sure that you and I are doing well, Phil, which is a good idea, I think. So
yeah, this really ties into what we were talking about on Monday with the. Making healthcare affordable by way of early detection, and that's really what this is about. And the thing is, your smartphone could have this thing today. It's really the sensor, right? That's the
right.
trick is having the thing that will capture your. They talk about tears, blood, urine, sweat, right? If you've got a sensor that's collecting that data, there's more than enough processing power on your phone today, right, to be to be looking at that, or to be sending it off to something in the cloud that can crunch it even deeper, and be finding the match to something that says, whoa, this is a marker for. Again, they talk about Parkinson's here, or cancer, and there's a great link here. They talk about the fact that early stage detection can make such a big difference. Just this casual link within this story, if you follow it, it talks about a new eye test that can detect glaucoma 4 years before current tests. That's the kind of thing we're talking about, right? If you imagine how much subtle, irreversible, devastation can occur with a condition like glaucoma over 4 years before we even know it's happening, right?
Right.
You think what a game-changing test that is. Take that same idea and apply it across the board. Apply it to right now. You got to have all this macro stuff going on, and they say you're pre-diabetic, right? Well, there's probably very subtle stuff that they can, that this kind of application would be able to look at you and tell you're pre-diabetic 2 years before those symptoms manifested. Everything that can be treated at a later stage can be treated more easily, more effectively, and less expensively at an earlier stage. That's just common sense, right?
And with fewer side effects, because you're not having to use full bore drugs that are required for a later stage and more serious portion of the disease, right? If you can catch it earlier, maybe you can take care of it with a lighter drug that will and therefore head off the problem, and you enjoy much better health, catching it early.
You could catch things early enough that you could take a supplement, or you could make lifestyle changes, and the things wouldn't occur.
Right.
Just the fact that, and people could be preventing these conditions anyway in some cases, but just the fact that right, that the red light flashes and it says, hey, you're heading towards diabetes, right? Hey, you're heading towards Parkinson's disease, or whatever it would be.
I'm putting down the Snickers bar and picking up the broccoli.
Yeah, that's an attention getter. Hey, we're seeing an early indication of something that could eventually become lung cancer. You think twice before lighting up. I mean, you really do.
Yeah.
This is the kind of power we're talking about, and it's just 5 years out. I love this piece by IBM. Everybody take a look at this. Watch the videos. They're awesome. But hey, that's not everything that's going to be happening in the next 5 years. Okay, so I found a couple of others that I thought would kind of helpfully augment what IBM has done here. First of these, this was on techly.com. The singularity is nearer, and again, this goes to something that we were talking about both on Monday and that applies today. AI is learning to predict the future. This, I don't know how you can overstate the significance of this. And the example they give here is this group that has developed an AI that if you show it images, it can take that image and predict what happens next. It'll create a little video that shows what happens next in that image. And by getting two of these to compete with each other, they're getting better and better at kind of predicting what the next thing that happens is. I've worked in business intelligence and data warehousing and analytics for years. I've worked for companies that do that, and a lot of my day job is working with companies to market those kinds of products or analyze, talk about those kinds of products. And we've been talking about predictive analytics. For 15 years I've been writing about predictive analytics, but this is actually it. Okay, this is for when people hear predictive, this is actually a computer program that takes a pretty good shot at telling you what the future is going to be. And
this could be
scary.
Well, here's the thing. You could give it a picture of you at the beach, and it's able to give you a little animated of the waves coming in, and that's pretty and that's cool, right? You
right.
Give it a still picture, and it gives you a little 5-second video. But how about this for an application? How about giving all of our cops spidey sense?
Yeah.
I mean, they got cameras on them anyway, and perhaps you get a camera on their back as well as the front, so they kind of get a 360 view, and their onboard computer tells them danger, in this direction. It even gives you a vibration in a particular direction of danger. That's could you see that happening with this kind of technology, Phil?
Absolutely. Well, in fact, when you swing it back to the IBM story, we talk about the macroscopes. This is a huge enabling technology for them. Okay,
right.
That's kind of why they'll be effective, why they're going to be able to do what they do. That's right. I mean, hey, I'm just taking snapshots of this traffic pattern. And we think of snapshots as pictures, but it's really collections of data of this traffic pattern. And I've got this model that I built of traffic patterns by watching them over the years. And I've got models from everybody else's traffic patterns who've been watching them over the years. And we know for a fact that a pileup is about to occur, right? Because, my spidey sense is tingling, and that's what happens. And, we can make an intervention here, and now it won't happen, right? It's that kind of thing. I mean, take that example and multiply it by just about anything that can happen, and
you wouldn't have to even have 100% certainty of something. What
right.
if the danger of a pileup reached above 10% for a particular intersection? You could start, particularly once you've got self-driving cars and things like that, you can start routing traffic around that to get that danger level for that intersection down to a normal level, instead of 1 chance in 10 of there being an accident at an intersection in the next 30 seconds. Maybe we can reduce that level significantly. That's remarkable, and a remarkable power, and again, a little scary. So
yeah, it is. Well, what this put me in mind of is years ago. Have you ever read On Intelligence by Jeff Hawkins, the guy who invented the
I think I've read the excerpts, and I think we brought it up in the show, haven't we?
Yeah, we've talked about it. I mean, great book. he lays out what intelligence really means from a computer science standpoint and from a philosophical standpoint. And he comes to this notion that I've never seen improved on by anyone, that intelligence basically means the ability to make predictions. That's what intelligence is. That's why we're intelligent. Is we're the more capable you are of predicting what's going to happen in your environment, the more capable you are of interacting successfully in that environment, and that's ultimately what intelligence boils down to. When you look at it this way, and you think, well, here they're actually making real predictions of what's going to happen next. We've been using the term intelligence to apply to what computers do for 50-plus years. But this may be the actual beginning of artificial intelligence right here, the real beginning of it, because here they really are actually peeking ahead and giving you the future in a kind of a macro way that we haven't seen up to this point. And yeah, it's exciting and a little bit scary because this is actually it. Especially when they talk about two adversarial networks competing with each other to see who can predict the future better.
I think that's going on between our ears all the time, Phil. I mean, we got alternate theories of of what the next 10 seconds will hold going on all the time, and battling it out. And it's probably not just 2 or 3 ideas; it's probably a multitude of ideas. And then the thing that the idea that correlates best with our experience is the idea of what we accept is about to happen, right?
Right.
And so, and so we're about to see that with machines, and that's both very cool and just a little bit scary, I think.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, they'll be able to do it a million times faster with infinite amount of data, basically, and all the time. But that doesn't mean they'll be better at it than we are or anything like that. Tremendous power there, and yeah, a little bit of caution. Finally, scientists create new life form in lab, altering the fundamentals of DNA. This is just a little peek ahead. There's the genetic code has got the Gattaca, right?
Yeah. G-A-T and exactly.
And C. And now they're adding X and Y. Okay, they've created a life form. We've seen synthetic life forms created before, but now they've expanded the code with 2 more base pairs, right? to basically think of adding dimensions. I don't even know how you characterize this, but
it's adding more letters to the alphabet. You know, instead of having 4 letters in your alphabet, you now have 6. So you could probably encode more information in a shorter DNA string, since you got more letters in your alphabet.
I would think. The thing is, I read this and I go, okay, so they talk about we could create new life forms, things that couldn't have existed before. They're doing it in a bacteria right now. My thought on this one for 5 years out is, in 5 years, we'll start to see the earliest thoughts on what the applications of this will be, and they're going to be mind-blowing. That's my take.
Right.
This is
so basically, this is what you're saying is that this will be, your prediction is that in 5 years, this will be what we're talking about on the show.
Yeah, that's right. This is the kind of thing that, this will be driving what World Transformer will be about in 5 years. We'll be talking about, hey, here's 10 cool things you can do with your extra DNA pairs, right? I mean, not that people will have them, but in 5 years. But basically, the applications of this will start to take shape, and I think that's probably the main thing to think about when you look at all of these changes that are occurring. If you take a 5-year window and say we're going to have all these applications of interesting technologies in 5 years, the thing to remember is we're also developing, new discoveries are being made. We're developing new things all the time. And in 5 years, we're going to have a whole new window of possibility that we're looking at. And everything that we're talking about here will be kind of a platform from which we'll be looking at those possibilities. And the world is going to look different. And I guess to answer the question of our show title, what will things be like in 5 years? It is Wednesday, Stephen. What will things be like in 5 years?
Amazing, right?
They'll be amazing, absolutely. Well, that's got to do it for this week. We will be not this week, excuse me. For tonight, we're going to be back on Friday with a brand new show with some other geek, in addition to more fun futuristic topics. Great talking with you, Stephen. Great being with you all. And until next time, live to see it.